Is the Jamaican culture over-sexualized? Let's talk about that in this video. Hi guys, welcome back to the Jamaican Experience with Yaz, where I bring you a Jamaican experience that transcends sand, sea, and sensimilla. If you're new here, welcome. This channel is about all things Jamaican, so if you're into that, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you like this video, remember to leave a thumbs up, share, and subscribe for more weekly content like this. All things Jamaican. And you can follow me on Instagram at Yazzle. Now let's jump right into the topic of discussion. This past Friday, May 7th, an article came out in the Jamaica Observer titled, "Is Jamaica a Sex Crazed Nation?" Right away, looking at a headline like this, it sparks some interest. Of course, I have my personal opinions or feelings about this subject matter, which I will save for last, so stick around for that. However, let's just look at some of the talking points that were made in this article. It's important to note that this article was an opinion piece, so of course this person is merely giving their perspective. It is my opinion that this wasn't the best written article, but there were some good talking points mentioned. And of course, this headline is what inspired me to do this video, really questioning whether or not our culture, Jamaica, is over-sexualized. This author did not waste any time in coming to a conclusion. In the first sentence, the author basically stated that Jamaica do, in fact, have a sex-crazed nation. As the article progressed, they're trying to prove why they make that claim. In fact, right? Within the second paragraph, the author made a claim about the dancehall culture and how the dancehall culture has negatively impacted the society and the correlation between the dancehall culture and Jamaica being a sex-crazed nation. And the dancehall culture, inclusive of the clothes, the dress, the dance, the whole lifestyle centered around dancehall. Here I was thinking, here we go again attacking the music and the artists. But the reality is, if you are to look at whether or not the country is a sex-crazed nation or whether Jamaica is over-sexualized, you really do have to consider the music, because music is such a significant part of the Jamaican culture. Now, that's not to say that artists are to be blamed, don't get me wrong, for what's happening in the society, not saying that at all, but it is something we do have to look at. It does form part of our culture, and it's a significant part of our culture, like it's everywhere, we cannot escape it. Another thing that was mentioned was the terminologies that are used for female genitalia. Of course, going back to the terms used in the music, suggesting that the terms are derogatory and aggressive. So just reading that, the author is trying to set the tone here that dancehall is where it begins. The dancehall culture is where it begins, and then it trickles down to the other areas of the society. Spoke about the children in school, having things like no panty day and discussing and being preoccupied with subject matters that are concerned with sex. Children taking Viagra, boys are taking Viagra, and that's true. Young boys are taking Viagra. It's a very big problem because when they're taking Viagra at an age that they don't need that, it creates problems for them much earlier than they would have probably had a problem if they would have ever had a problem at all. The author also spoke about the relationship between sex and violence in the culture. Now, you might be saying, what's the relationship between sex and violence? So the link there, as suggested by the author, is really that the culture promotes promiscuity. And from that promiscuity, we have teenage pregnancies, we have children being born out of wedlock, or rather a stable family. And then, of course, that has to do with children not being raised properly. And then, especially in certain socioeconomic communities or socioeconomic class, children not being educated, children not being raised properly. And then, of course, they turn to violence. So that's the correlation there, or the link between sex and violence. One could say that's a bit of a stretch, but maybe not. Now, one thing I didn't get in this article, the author tried to contrast the Victorian era, which is 1837 to 1901. Tried to contrast that society at that time, you know, not being as sexualized as now. And I just did not get the relationship there and the need to contrast that, because if you want to contrast societies, you would definitely want to look at now. You want to look at the Jamaican society or the Jamaican culture with another society existing now. And if you ask me, without even doing any research, you will find that it's not much different, you know. And then the author spoke about, you know, bestiality and it being a common thing now, especially in certain rural areas. I don't know how common bestiality is in Jamaica, but it's something I've been hearing about since I was a child, you know, some time ago. Not something you hear about often, but this author is trying to suggest that it's becoming prevalent. So the culture is just so sex crazed that they've even turned to bestiality and it becoming a common thing in the society. That is something that I definitely think is a stretch, but I really don't know. No, after all of that, you know, from the article, is Jamaica oversexualized? The first thing we have to ask ourselves is, you know, what does it mean to really be oversexualized? Is the Jamaican culture excessively preoccupied with sex? Without trying to make this video lengthy, there are just a few things we can look at here. We can look at the music, we can look at our schools, we look at the commercials on our television, we look at the Jamaica informal media spaces, the pages on social media and so on. Those are some general things we can look at to say whether or not we think the society is preoccupied excessively with sex. If we look at our corner shops, you pull up at a corner shop, it is not uncommon at all to see a woman spread out on a poster, because of course alcohol has to be sold with a naked woman spread out on a poster in the most vulgar way. You know, and I don't have anything against people who want to dress like that. That's okay, of course, that's fine. You know, people should be free to dress the way they want to dress, but of course when you're talking about a public space, I think there has to be some sort of regulation as to what is appropriate in a public space, because children are exposed to it, everybody's exposed to it. Now, of course, it's parents' job to educate and to raise their children and to inform their children about what's out there in the world. But you know, you inform your children, but it doesn't mean that you want to feed them the bad things and the negative things, even though you inform them about what's out there. Move on from the corner shop. Look at the commercials on TV. One of the things I hate about Jamaican television are the ads. You know, you don't see those kind of things on foreign TV, no matter how bad their societies are. You just don't see the kind of sexualized content on foreign television. And when I say foreign television, I'm talking about many other places in the world, not just North America. You just don't see that exposure to sex unless it's an adult channel. The ads are so sexualized, even something that has nothing to do with alcohol or cigarettes or, you know, those kinds of, or drugs, even, you know, just regular businesses, everything is about a sexy woman. And I'm not saying don't do that, but when you're talking about family TV, family channel, something that appeals to everybody, especially within prime time hours, I mean, you have to be, I think we can do better in terms of regulating the type of ads that are played, the type of content that is put out for the general population. So those are the ads. Move on to the music. We cannot dispute that dancehall music is sex. It's sex or violence. But we're talking about sex here. It's the words that the author was right. The words that are used, the way that women are spoken about. Dancehall culture is sex in the most explicit way. The music speaks about sex in the most explicit way. These dances nowadays, whew, they don't even look like dances. I don't know what they are, but they're not dance. It's full action, you know? So, and that's also out there in the public space. It's not something that is only for the eyes and ears of adults. And so that's really, so I don't have a problem with it as far as adults are concerned, because I love the dancehall music. But would I feed it to my children? Nah. Would I have my children listen to it? Is that the kind of content or the kind of culture that I want to promote and feed to my children? Absolutely not. So there it is that we've looked at the music. Then again, now we look at the schools and the children in schools. They're listening to the music. And you know, one could say that it's the parents' job to of course inform their children, educate them about what's out there, teach them right and wrong. But the reality is, for many communities in Jamaica, the children veg out on dancehall music. Whatever the dancehall music tell them to do, that's what they do. They're at an impressionable age, and the reality is, as the author mentioned, with all of these teenage pregnancies, children growing up without proper parenting, proper structure, this is what is the music is their teacher, the music is their parent, you know, and they're already exposed to a lot within their communities and their homes and so on. So we cannot dispute that the music does have an effect on sexualizing the culture. And it's not just here in Jamaica, it's everywhere. It's just that we're talking about Jamaica, and what I do know is that our music is very explicit. Then we look at our social media spaces, meaning our social media accounts that we follow. Again, if you're on social media, you're going to know that it's sex. Finally, and then of course there's the issue of church. I'm not qualified to talk about church because I don't go to church, but the author did mention that there was a time that people used to be conscious about what they wore to church. No, they aren't. And then again, there is the issue of schools. I do think that children in schools are preoccupied with sex, the way that they behave, the things that they talk about. Because sometimes, we see these videos that come out online and we see the conversations that the children are preoccupied with. And if you even think back to when you were in schools, the nature of the conversations, and we're not talking about general, oh, boy likes girl, girl likes boy. We're talking about actual adult conversation about sex and so on. So from now looking at this article, reading this article, as I said before, it was a very difficult article to read because of the way it was written, and it was done in a very accusatory way, and it came out lashing out at the dancehall music. So I do think more could have been done to look at it in a more objective way. However, some valid points were made. After reading this article, after doing this video here, after really sitting down and thinking about this, I'd really love to see this topic discussed on a more official public platform. Really looking at our society or culture. Is it really that over-sexualized? What is the correlation between the sex and other ills in the society? So for me, I do think, yes, the Jamaican culture is excessively preoccupied with sex. Thus, it is an over-sexualized country, or as this author put it, a sex-crazed nation. What do you think about this, guys? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective on this matter. If you like the video, please leave a thumbs up. This channel is about all things Jamaican, as mentioned before, so if you're into that, please hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification bell right over there so you never miss a video when I upload. Thank you for watching, and remember, Jamaica is not just a place, it's an experience.